Poor Maid carried a lost little girl home in the storm. She didn't know his dad was a mafia boss. The rain came down like it had something to prove. It battered rooftops, flooded the streets, and turned the quiet town into a blur of water and shadows. Thunder cracked across the sky, loud enough to make even the bravest souls flinch. And in the middle of it all, barefoot and soaked to the bone, Amina ran. Her thin shawl clung to her shoulders, useless against the storm. One hand held tightly onto a small plastic bag with leftover bread from her employer's house, her dinner for the night. The other shielded her eyes as she struggled to see through the sheets of rain. She should have been home an hour ago. But the rich neighborhood where she worked never cared about storms or time. Floors still had to shine. Dishes still had to sparkle. Orders still had to be followed. Amina was used to it. What she wasn't used to was the sound she heard next. A cry, faint, trembling, almost swallowed by the storm. She froze. For a moment, she thought she imagined it. The wind howled again, bending the trees, rattling gates. But then it came again, clearer this time. A child. Amina turned slowly, her heart beginning to race. "Hello," she called out, her voice barely audible against the rain. No answer. She stepped closer to the edge of the road, her eyes scanning the dark corners where streetlights flickered weakly. Then she saw it, a tiny figure, curled beside a closed shop, shivering violently. Amina didn't think twice. She ran toward the child, slipping slightly on the wet ground before catching herself. As she got closer, she realized it was a little girl, no more than 5 years old. Her dress was soaked, her shoes were missing, her small hands clutched a broken doll, its head hanging loosely to one side. Hey, it's okay," Amina said gently, kneeling beside her. The girl flinched at first, her wide eyes filled with fear. But when she saw Amina's face, soft, worried, kind, she didn't pull away. "I'm lost," the girl whispered, her voice shaking. "I can't find my daddy." Amina's chest tightened. "What's your name?" "Lily." "Okay, Lily," Amina said softly. "I'm Amina. You're not alone anymore." The girl's lips trembled. "I'm cold." That was all Amina needed to hear. Without hesitation, she took off her shawl and wrapped it around the child, even though it left her own shoulders exposed to the cold rain. Then she picked her up. Lily was light, too light. "Where do you live?" Amina asked, trying to keep her voice calm. "I don't know," Lily mumbled, resting her head weakly against Amina's shoulder. Amina looked around. The street was empty. No cars, no people, no sign of anyone searching. For a moment, doubt crept into her mind. What if someone was looking for this child? What if they thought she took her? But then Lily shivered violently again, clutching her tightly. "I'm scared." Amina closed her eyes for a brief second. "No," she whispered to herself. "Not tonight." She tightened her hold on the girl and turned toward her small home. "We're going somewhere safe," she said. Amina's house was barely more than a single room. The roof leaked in 2 places. The walls were cracked. The electricity flickered on good days, and disappeared completely on bad ones. Tonight, it was somewhere in between. She pushed the door open with her foot and stepped inside, quickly closing it behind her to block out the storm. "It's okay," she said softly, setting Lily down on her small bed. "You're safe here." The girl looked around nervously. "It's dark." Amina lit a candle, placing it carefully on a metal plate. Warm, golden light filled the room. "It's better now," she said with a gentle smile. Lily nodded, slightly. Amina moved quickly, grabbing the driest cloth she had and kneeling in front of her. "Let's get you warm." She carefully dried Lily's hair, her face, her tiny hands. Then she found an old oversized shirt and helped her change out of her soaked clothes. All the while, Lily watched her silently. "Are you my mommy?" she asked suddenly. Amina paused. For a moment, something flickered in her eyes. Pain, maybe. Or memory. "No," she said softly. "But I can stay with you tonight." Lily seemed to think about that. Then she nodded. "Okay." Amina smiled faintly and handed her the plastic bag. "It's not much, but we can share." Inside were 2 pieces of bread. Lily took one. "Thank you," she said quietly. Amina sat beside her, watching as the child ate slowly, like someone who had been taught to be careful. "Your daddy must be worried," Amina said gently. Lily's expression changed. He's always busy, she said. But he loves me. Amina nodded. I'm sure he does. But something about the way Lily said it made her wonder. Across town, chaos had already begun. Black SUVs lined the streets. Men in dark suits spoke urgently into phones. Flashlights cut through the rain as they searched every corner, every alley. She was here, one man said, pointing to a small shoe lying in the water. A tall figure stepped forward. His presence alone silenced everyone. Sharp features, cold eyes, a calmness that felt more dangerous than anger. Find her, he said quietly. That was all, but it was enough, because everyone there knew who he was. And what would happen if they failed? Back in the small house, Lily had fallen asleep. Curled up under a thin blanket, clutching her broken doll. Amina sat beside her, watching her breathe. The storm outside had softened, but her thoughts hadn't. Who was this child? Where did she come from? And why was she alone in a storm like that? Amina sighed softly. Tomorrow, she whispered. We'll find your family tomorrow. She leaned back against the wall, exhaustion finally catching up to her. But just as her eyes began to close, a loud knock echoed through the door. Her heart jumped. Another knock, harder this time. Amina stood slowly, her pulse quickening. No one ever came here. No one. She stepped toward the door, hesitating for just a second before opening it. And froze. Men. 4 of them, dressed in black, standing still, watching her. And behind them, a man whose presence felt like a storm all on its own. His eyes scanned the room in a single glance. Then they landed on the bed. On Lily. And everything changed. He stepped forward, his voice low, controlled, but filled with something deeper. Where did you find her? Amina swallowed. She was alone. In the rain. I brought her here. Before she could finish, Lily stirred. Daddy. The word cut through the tension like lightning. The man moved instantly, crossing the room in 2 strides and kneeling beside the bed. Lily. For the first time, his voice broke. The little girl sat up, her face lighting up despite everything. You found me. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly, like he'd never let go again. I'm here, he murmured. I've got you. Amina stood there, stunned. Daddy, this man. She looked at the others. At their posture, their silence, their eyes, and suddenly, a realization hit her like a wave. These weren't just men. This wasn't just a father. This was someone powerful, someone dangerous, someone the entire city would fear. The man stood up slowly, Lily still in his arms. Then he turned to Amina. Their eyes met. For a moment, the room felt too small to hold the weight of that gaze. You brought her here, he said. It wasn't a question. Amina nodded. She was cold, alone. I couldn't leave her. Silence. The kind that makes your heart pound in your ears. Then Lily spoke again, resting her head on his shoulder. She gave me food, she said softly. And her blanket. The man's expression shifted, just slightly. He looked around the room. The broken walls, the leaking roof, the single bed, then back at Amina. You have nothing, he said quietly. It wasn't cruel, it was factual. Amina didn't respond. And yet, he continued, you gave her everything you had. Another pause. Then, slowly, something unexpected happened. The man lowered his head. Just slightly. Thank you. Amina blinked. She hadn't expected that. Not from someone like him. Not from someone who looked like he owned the world. It was nothing, she said softly. But Lily shook her head. It wasn't, she whispered. The man looked at his daughter. Then back at Amina, and in that moment, something shifted. Not in the room, but in him. You won't forget this night, he said. Amina wasn't sure what he meant. But something told her, neither would he.